Hi, and thank you for joining us today for this Nonprofit Connect. For those of you who haven't participated in one of these, this virtual conversation highlights one nonprofit that is doing amazing work in our community. I'm Geneva Johns, Operations Manager here at Women Helping Women Fund, and today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Sabrina Votava, Executive Director of FailSafe for Life, and she is also a licensed mental health counselor. We are so excited to talk to you, so welcome. So, yes. Can you tell us a little bit about FailSafe for Life and your mission and how the organization got started?
Yes, absolutely. So we are a Spokane-based nonprofit organization that works in ending suicide through connection, education, and hope. We do that primarily through education as our main focus. So we spend a lot of time being out in the community the best that we can, when and where we can. Obviously, the pandemic changed some of those things, but offering resources and letting people know what's available, and also offering educational opportunities about how to recognize warning signs, what steps you can take to talk with someone when you're concerned about them having thoughts of suicide, how to help create some safety, where to go next, what to do next, those types of things. So that's our main work that we do. We also have a kindness campaign that we do every year. And just this year, we started our Mailers for Hope campaign. So that is where we collect messages of hope in cards from the community. And it could be any message of hope, just about how you overcame struggle, something in your life, and something really personal. And then we provide that out to, this year it was 3 hospitals. We connected with Sacred Heart, and with the Inland Northwest Behavioral Health, and then with Daybreak Community Services, and provided those cards to them, and then they provide them to their people who are getting inpatient care. So those are kind of some of our programs, some of the ways that we work to instill hope, to create connection, to educate the community. And it got started in 2016. I saw a need. I have worked personally in suicide prevention for about 18 years now, and I love the work I do. It was inspired by personal loss. It was part of my grief process to understand kind of what was happening, and why these people died by suicide, and it just kind of took off from there. I really developed a passion for the work and just the people. I've met some wonderful people through this work, and so just continued with it through my career. And then, in 2016, we were noticing that there was a need, and not to say that there weren't people in the community doing wonderful work, but we thought we could enhance that and collaborate with those folks and help deepen and extend the work. So that's kind of how we got started, where we got started, and what we do.
So just for anyone who's kind of wondering, so you, FailSafe for Life does the education portion, and it's not really that one-on-one counseling. It's helping people and helping people kind of access the resources and make some of these resources a little bit more approachable. Is that
exactly? Yes. Just kind of helping understand, how do I even get that person to that point of where they're getting that individual care? What does that even look like? How do I know that they might need it? What do I say? Where do I start? There's just so many things that need to happen before we even can get there. And so we really feel this is something that anyone could benefit from knowing. And this is kind of just like how we're able to intervene when other difficult things are going on in someone's life and be able to help them. This is just kind of one of those things we'd like to add to that list, is being able to get them where they need to go.
Since the focus is on education, can you tell us a little bit more about the programs and community events that you offer?
Yes. So as far as education opportunities, we have 2 primary focuses for our education. One of them we offer is called QPR. So that is a formalized training that was started by the QPR Institute, and they are a local organization that actually their program is used internationally now. So it's pretty awesome that it started right here in Spokane. But it's an evidence-based program. It stands for Question, Persuade, Refer. So those are the steps that we use, the framework that we use, and help guide people in how we intervene when we're concerned that somebody's having thoughts of suicide. So that's our main one that we offer out to the community. We also have another one that is called Assist. And again, it's a program that we are licensed to offer by another organization. It's a 14-hour, 2-day intensive training. And it seems like that would be a really long time, but you'd be surprised how fast the time goes by. And I mean that. I mean it really. So it's really interactive. So it's a hands-on interactive workshop, and that's what we love about it. And again, it's an evidence-based program, so it just goes in more depth. If I'm the person who needs to help keep this person safe, and what are some things that I can do to increase their safety when it comes to after I've asked about suicide, and then what if I can't get them into resources right away, or this is a struggle or something like that. So it just goes deeper into that part of the process.
Okay.
And then we do have a couple of trainings that we do on our own. One of them is called Mental Health Matters, where we just talk more about general mental health that we designed ourselves. And then we have another one called Suicide Recognition and Referral, and it's a 3-hour training, and it was designed to meet the needs of some professionals in Washington State who have a 3-hour requirement for suicide recognition and referral training. So there's a bit of a menu there to check out and explore.
Yeah. And I like that FailSafe for Life covers kind of the mental health piece all the way up into a little bit more like intensive resources and things like that. So that's really cool. And wow. And in 5 years, you all have accomplished that. And that is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. In a normal year, how many people come through your programs?
We have had, surprisingly, last year an increase in the amount of people we were able to serve. And I don't know that we're on that same trajectory this year, just because I noticed a bit of a lull in requests, not because people don't want the training, but because we're all getting our feet under us still, right? So I definitely understand that. But we had a lot of momentum going into last year. And so we were definitely providing a lot of training early on in the year. And then we were able to adapt somewhat quickly throughout the middle of the year. So we were still able to serve over 600 people through our trainings. I want to say 680 around in there. And that was definitely a notable increase, because prior to that, it'd been about 400, just over 400 people.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's a pretty big jump.
Yeah.
People really needed that.
Yes.
So beyond that, were there any other ways that COVID impacted your work and the need for mental health resources locally that you saw?
Yeah, I definitely impacted us. If we have always been in-person training and really focused on that because of the connection piece. So we look for, ending suicide through connection, education, and hope. Well, connecting with others really meant to us being in community, being in presence with one another. Sometimes if we were able to get it sponsored, we would offer food and say, come and eat with us and talk with us and take a moment out of your day and try to make it somewhat enjoyable while talking about a really, really difficult subject. So that went out the window. And we were able to modify our in-person training later in the year to reduce the number of people and to provide more space and things like that. So we were able to do a little tiny bit of that. And then our other trainings we were able to offer virtually. So we made some of those changes. We even adopted the Mental Health Matters. We partnered up with the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board and adapted it to meet some of the needs of our Native communities and also make sure that it was appropriate for online needs and things like that. So some great partnerships we were able to develop, which was exciting. And so it looked more like some online work. Yeah. And we're hoping to keep that going because it seems like it made it accessible for people who might not have been able to show up in person, and carve out that time, but they could log on while they were home and kind of doing some other things and listen.
Yeah. And for people who may just not, maybe that's not their setting. Maybe they prefer to be at home.
Right. Yeah.
So it meets everyone where they are a little bit better. And that's been a little bit of the beauty of COVID. Very, very small amount.
Right. Exactly. Yes. That little bit of it. That I agree with you.
Yes. So kind of on that path of mental health, do you have any tips or daily mental health practices that you recommend for people? I know I think everyone's been hit with a little bit of that COVID, that COVID depression is probably too heavy of a word, but just feeling isolated and alone. And so any resources or little tips or recommendations around?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've definitely, I know a lot of people who've just hit that slump and I myself, it was a challenge. They're definitely not my best self at a lot of times throughout the last year. And so just commend everybody. We are here and we're doing it and we're still sticking with it. So that's something to be said. So talking about self-care, I think has gotten to be something that it's almost, we've heard it so much that it just goes in one ear and out the other. And it almost feels like that's a luxury. I don't have time for that. That's one more thing I'm not doing. And so I don't like to think about it in that context, but it is a bit of taking care of yourself or my daily tips. So things that I have really focused on during this, especially during this past year, is to shore up some of those basic needs. Like, am I resting? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I protecting that? And that's hard to do. Am I moving my body? It's really hard. I'm somebody who I love to go to exercise classes. And so when all that shut down, I did not have a lot of motivation to move. And so it just, it turned into, how am I going to have a dance party with my kids or take my dog for a walk or, those types of things where I'm moving my body regardless of how, this rigorous, intense exercise. It doesn't need to be that. We just need to move. Getting outside every day and eating something nutritious or wholesome every day. So, I don't care if it's corn dogs, but we're having some carrots with it. And that's, there's something kind of, about nourishing yourself and taking care of those things. I also know for me, I'll just throw out there, there's add water when I'm having a bit of a difficult day for myself or even my family. I'll take a shower, I'll take a bath, I'll drink something warm or cold or soothing. So just whatever that means for you, but those are some things that I like to do as a reset.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't think about the water, and it's just kind of that its own healing type thing, and it can meet you where you are. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think too with COVID, it was hard because we were always at home. For a lot of us, we're working, we were just sitting in front of a computer all day. And I think I know for me personally, it's been really hard to remember to get up and to move because you're like, well, I'm here and this is where I'm going to have to be. So I might as well just stay here. But I think it's that like determination. So it's good to hear about self-care and these like very manageable, easy things like, hey, just grab a handful of carrots and throw them on a plate and just talk it up to like self-care. So that's really good. Practical advice for everyone. So I hope everyone's taking notes on that. And then are there any good resources kind of nationally for people to access for just kind of more the mental health versus kind of the suicide prevention part of it?
Mm-hmm. As far as national resources that are available, I will lead with, just because I always go into suicide prevention because that's where my heart and passion is. We do have the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which is 1-800-273-TALK or 8255. And that number is going to be changing next year to a 3-digit number, which is exciting. Will be easier to remember. Yeah. But that is a number that you can call even if you're not having thoughts of suicide and you just need someone to listen for a moment. You're not in a place where you really need ongoing therapy or anything, but you just have this, you're in a pickle and I don't have anybody I can talk with about this. I really just need a warm ear. Yeah. So they're great for all different kinds of support and they're wonderful people to work with. We also have the crisis text line as a national resource, and it's something similar. So if you're really just stuck and overwhelmed and struggling, and it's not necessarily that you're having thoughts of suicide, but you don't really have anywhere else to turn in that moment and you want to talk with someone, you can text. And sometimes texting is easier, especially when we're talking about our feelings and it just, there's a lot going on. It can help you kind of process to write it out. So that's always an option. It's 741-741. Just write on down the right side of the phone there with 741-741, and you can text START and they'll get you connected. They also specialize in connecting you with people in your community, meaning it could be based off of your race or ethnicity, your religious preferences. I know of some people who are in the deaf or hard of hearing community, and that there's some cultural things around that they wanted someone to understand, so they were able to be connected with someone else who was also part of that community. So
that's really cool. Yeah,
I love that they can do that.
That's amazing. So kind of transitioning over more into the suicide prevention work that FailSafe for Life does. Can you talk about if someone is in need of help, what are some first steps that they should take to get assistance when it's them personally experiencing thoughts of suicide?
Absolutely. So if I myself today were having thoughts of suicide, one of the first things that I would do is call our local, our regional crisis line. And it's our regional behavioral health crisis line, I believe is what they're called, but it's through Frontier Behavioral Health. And they can help in identifying how severe, how serious is this, and what needs to happen next. So I like that resource. I also know that there's a website that's really great about helping build some skills between now and the time that you might be able to get your services. Okay. Sometimes there can be a bit of a delay. And if you are really in serious need and the safety is being threatened imminently, then we want to make sure that you get into some immediate services, but that's not always the case. We don't always need to go to the hospital. Sometimes we just need some extra support. And again, sometimes there can be a gap because of when and how mental health resources are available. So a website that I would absolutely recommend checking out is called Now Matters Now, and it's MATTERS, nowmattersnow.org. And the whole website was created with mental health professionals and with people with lived experience, and they give tips and tricks on what helped, what works, things that they would recommend or suggest. And it just also really provides this sense of I am not completely alone in how I'm feeling. I'm definitely not the only one who's ever felt this way. And there's so many people who've recovered from having these types of feelings and thoughts that that you can do it too. So I think that's a great place to start. And then if you're not sure where to go, you can't get through to the crisis line for some reason, or that isn't a resource that you want to utilize, you can always walk into Inland Northwest Behavioral Health is a place that we can walk into. So it's a local hospital that you can walk in and they can do an assessment there and then. So if you're not sure what to do and you just want to go somewhere, that'd be a great place to start.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of good immediate resources, kind of, again, meeting everyone there, phone, text, in person, online. I love that Now Matters Now website brings in kind of the element of I've made it, because I know so many times with depression, you're like, this is very unique to me. I'm the only one feeling this way. And so I do think there's a lot of merit in seeing that other people feel that way and that you're not alone and that it's achievable to get through that. So I love that piece of that website. If I'm someone who's, family member, friend, coworker, is in need of help or reaches out for help, but maybe doesn't want to go get help or is having a hard time, what are some of the resources available? What are some, helpful things for them to know as they try to help, people that they love and care about?
Yeah. So we could talk about this for a very long time. This is this is my bread and butter. This is where, I spend a lot of time, but I would just say initially, don't be afraid to ask if they're having thoughts of suicide. This is a great place to start. So if you were to ask me today if I'm having thoughts of suicide, you might frame it something like, Sabrina, I've noticed that things have been really tough for you lately and you've really been struggling. You kind of seem to be shutting down, and I understand because it's been so hard, and sometimes when people are doing that, when they're shutting down like that, they're having thoughts of suicide. And I'm wondering if that's been true for you. Have you had thoughts of suicide? So we're just acknowledging what are some of the things that we've noticed, why are we asking? And also acknowledging, just like we talked about, that you're not the only person who's ever been there. And so it's okay if you are having these thoughts, we can address them, we can help you through them. Mm-hmm. So we ask, and then we want to be patient and listen, be present. Know that if they're talking to you, then there's some safety there. And so that's a wonderful thing if they're able to open up a little bit. And you don't have to listen to them forever. We don't have to be counseling them in that moment, but just see if you can listen, be present with them. I like to express gratitude when people share their thoughts of suicide with me, because I know how brave they were to say that. Yeah. So I truly am grateful. And then we want to get them to those resources, right? So maybe you're looking at that website together and then seeing where you can go from there. Maybe you're helping them see how they can get down to Inland Northwest Behavioral Health. Maybe you're calling, either one of those, the local or the national crisis line, or texting and just kind of doing it coming alongside them. And not that they're incapable, but sometimes it just makes it feel less scary when somebody's with you.
Yeah. And then if there's any like resistance to the, like, yes, I am having thoughts of suicide, but it's really resistant. What do you recommend around that? Because I imagine that's something that comes up a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And my first question when people are resistant is, tell me what's stopping you, because I want to know. Oftentimes what's described to me is fear in one sense or another. I'm afraid of what people will think. I'm afraid of the judgment. I'm afraid of that I'm going to be locked up. Or I had someone tell me, I'm afraid they're going to come put me in a straitjacket and they're going to arrest me. It's going to be on my record. You know, these really awful things.
Yeah.
And some of that's not true. And some of what their fears are valid, right? And I mean, they're all valid, but I mean, some of them are something that really could be part of the picture, right? So if I tell someone I'm having thoughts of suicide, it could ruin my career. Well, sometimes there are careers where that can really change things.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we can talk about that. You know, that's one of the reasons why I like some of those anonymous resources, is because we can ask questions. If we're calling crisis lines or using those websites, we can find out a little bit more and kind of warm up to the idea. And then also know that your life is more important than any of these things around it, right? So if something is going to really change because you have gotten help for your thoughts of suicide, then we're going to find a way through it. And something, you know, your life is worth not just muddling through. You deserve to thrive in it and not just survive it. So and sometimes I'll tell people that this is bigger than us and we need to get some extra help. And I'm not trying to hand you off to someone else. I want to make sure you get the best care possible. Mm-hmm. And right now that means getting more people involved.
Yeah.
So those are some things that I tried and help breaking down some of those barriers and that fear, and just ensuring that they're really wrapped around with resources if we're not able to get them onto that next step and they're so resistant, that we're just kind of patiently reminding them that you're there and that you care and you want to be supportive.
Yeah. And is there a good spot for people who maybe want like kind of a one sheet of this information? Is there like a spot that you recommend to send them to?
Yeah, so on our website, actually under resources, we have some of the crisis lines available. We have some websites that are handy that are available. And then if you scroll down, we broke it up into some of the resources that are available. So for an example, I'm concerned about someone I care about. What do I do? So we have a couple of resources there. Or even I've lost someone to suicide. How do I tell my children? You know, we didn't develop any of these resources. We just kind of tried to be the broker. So pull them together and have one place to go look at them. So
perfect.
Yeah, that'd be a good place to start.
Good. And this kind of just came up with what you were talking about, with people being concerned about what could happen to them if they do express, you know, outwardly that they're having these thoughts. How have you kind of seen these like stigmas around mental health, whether they were, you know, true, you know, 50 years ago or whatever, that are still just so prevalent in our society? Have you seen those like adapt and change, and how are you kind of helping people understand what's actually what actually happens when you receive help, I guess?
Yeah. So I think there's been some wonderful changes that have come in the last 50, 60 years around mental health services and our attitude towards mental health. I will also say one glimmer out of this really dark time in our lives of the pandemic has been there's more conversations about our mental health, and not just about mental health in general, but about our mental health. You know, 2 years ago, I don't know how much I would have talked about my own struggle. I think I might have, but I don't know how comfortable the society really was with some of those conversations. And now it feels more relatable. Yeah, I had some dark times that were difficult. Well, many of us did. Most of us did.
Yeah.
So it kind of broke down some of those barriers, which I'm really grateful for. And I think will do some good as we move forward.
Yeah.
And I would wish it could have happened any other way. But again, just kind of a glimmer that I see. I also know that there has been a lot of intention about taking really intentional care and humanizing the person who's going in to get help, because there was not an understanding about what it meant to have thoughts of suicide. It was very scary. People were afraid of it. They weren't sure what to do. And so the treatment looked really somewhat barbaric sometimes, and it was out of an intention of trying to do the best thing for this person, but it was such a lack of understanding. And what we know now is that all of us suffer from pain as part of our humanity. And some of us get to the point where that pain is just so unbearable, we cannot stand to be in it anymore. We can't stand to be in our lives anymore. We're trapped. We are in deep mental anguish, and everyone would be better off if we were gone. And those are all part of the lies that start to fill in, about how much the world would be a better place if we weren't here. And we know that's not the case.
Right.
But with that understanding of what it's like to be in that place, I think there's a lot more compassion and humanized care for someone who is in that place. Yeah. And there are some things that need to happen to make sure that that person stays safe, but there's also, this effort to help it be more autonomy offered. I know in particular at Daybreak, they decorated the place to make sure that it was safe for the people who were coming in, but that there was some color, there was it felt comfortable, that it was some sort of welcoming environment instead of something so sterile. So I see that definitely being an intention and effort, honestly, across the nation and in different pockets here and there, more so than others, but we're coming along.
Yeah. Mental health is health. It needs to be treated as such. Yeah. I was just talking to a friend about that the other day, where it needs to be treated like any other kind of health issue, because it impacts your life and it can get really serious. So our time is almost gone. So I'll just ask you my last two questions. This is one of my favorites because I think it really shows what an organization needs. So other than funding, what support from our community would be the most helpful for your organization around this topic of suicide prevention or mental health?
Yes. We would love to have people participate in our trainings. That would be a wonderful thing to have, just as a starting point. Honestly, if we're not sure where else to go next, that's okay. But starting there is so wonderful. And I really hope that you don't need that information, but I want you to have it in case you do. So I think that's a great place to be. If May comes around and you want to participate in our Mailers for Hope campaign and you want to talk about a time that you overcame struggle and write about your hopes and things like that, we'd love that. We would love to hear from you. We also, in September, is our kindness campaign. So if you want to participate in doing random acts of kindness or paying it forward if you receive one, we love to have people be involved that way.
Yeah. And if people want to volunteer beyond maybe some of those things that you just listed or want to donate, what's a good way for them to go about that?
Yeah, so I would encourage you to check out our website or email me personally. So my email is just sabrina.votava@failsafeforlife.org, and it's on the website, so you'll be able to see that there. But reach out to me and let me know what you're interested in, and we would love to hear from you. Lots of opportunities for volunteering, getting involved. We also take in-kind donations for an annual auction. We do, of course, donations are always accepted, but there's so many ways that we would love to have you be involved that aren't financially oriented. So.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Sabrina, so much. This was, I think, one of my favorite conversations I've had so far. So thank you for taking the time. And we are just so excited to share more about your work and all the amazing things FailSafe for Life is doing around mental health and education with suicide prevention. So thank you.
Yes, of course. It was so great to talk with you. Thanks for the opportunity.